Good afternoon. This is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncover No More. If I seem a little bit inhumane, because usually I am very empathetic, I can be angry at people and show it as well. An empath is simply someone to me that doesn't abide hiding truth in an emotional way. And that causes disconnections far and wide with people who don't understand us and don't care. And we've got a lot of people in our society in this day and age who don't care anymore. And we just, for whatever reason, this in small A America, we're busy paying bills and just we have our little friendship groups, or don't. We just have our lives and we're content there. And in that paradigm, I am a wife, mom, supposedly highly successful, except for you don't know the details of my life as it concerns what it did to me to establish the ministry of Uncover No More. And I'm not just an empath, I'm a sorceress who has what I call thrown storms and stuff like that. You'd have to read my books that went out of publication the month that Donald Trump was placed in the White House as 100% a criminal to understand where I actually am. And everybody has walked off that woman, literally. I, out of necessity, walked off my life of a Christian experience. It takes a lot of work to be a pure Christian woman, let me tell you. And I've disappointed my partner to a place of no return in some things. We're building back in other ways, but I've been very, very hurt because I had no support, none, when it came to establishing this ministry. I can understand now, at the age of 57, why my uncle Paul, Robert Paul Davis Beatty, pretty much stayed to himself. I'm privileged to have Facebook relationships with his children. And their mother, my Uncle Paul's partner, is the only one left. I have no members of my family. And since I had a large family, and the children are either millennials or Gen Z, I can't begin to explain how alone that is, literally, even though I've still got people around me. When you walk off the society that you were required to infill with your presence and to support 100%. If you don't do something else, like, I could become a part of a group somewhere or another. If you don't do that, you're going to be alone. So I'm reading, let me back up. And so therefore, why am I here? My family doesn't like each other. My mother's family is toxic. I don't want anything to do with them. And it went beyond that with me. They repudiated my father and I very badly. While I was establishing the ministry of Uncover No More, I have enemies, social enemies, because being elect does that. And sadly, immature people will blame everybody but themselves, and I don't even deal in a world of blame. And that's the point of this video, because I am reading Rudolf Steiner's book, Philosophy of Freedom. And it's a scientific approach to looking at freedom, free will, all of that, which we don't actually have. I am doing a close-up of the first 3 chapters. This is an extremely tiny book. There's like 15 chapters. It is so packed full in that little place, though, particularly for someone who has been a Christian, a Protestant for 50 years and testified against it. I've had elders throw me out of churches because of my archangel and elect status. I judge churches when I walk in. I judge the Protestant church when I walk in because of the sin in their midst. Go read the book of Revelation. It ain't pretty. And they don't change. Leadership in any church does not change. And a lot of times my Twitter X was used to call that into repentance. I've actually screenshotted other immortals and put them on just to help me push through the idea of you've got to change this. You've got to use your free will to change this. So now, I did that for years. I've got my own writing and everything, published works that I simply put together through coloring and blog work and stuff in notebooks, where I use page protectors and protect what I've either typed or written. I've got a lot of that, just showing how much work I did that seems absolutely 100% meaningless. It's like it's just screaming into the void of the machine that I'm forced to live in 100% of the time. If I had a choice, we would have meaningful community groups. We used to have it when I was a child. The neighborhoods were more family oriented, and there was a respect for whatever you were not involved when outside of the neighborhood. And yet I can tell you, having been raised, it's a really cool, secure feeling to belong in the Christian church. That's a really cool feeling, and I was used to it, particularly raising as many children as I did. But I'm considered mentally unstable, and you don't ever lose that moniker. There's mental illness in my mother's family and some in my dad's family. And I've raised kids and kept going and been attacked by people constantly, bullied, been hard to deal with myself because of my spirituality. See, I don't call that mental illness, I call that spirituality. There's nobody around me that sees it that way. Nobody. And that's not healthy. How they are looking at themselves, each other, and to me is not healthy. So it's best, I guess, that I'm like this. And the reason that I can say that is because I'm studying Rudolf Steiner's book. As I said, I will be reading a portion. There's going to be 2 videos in this one blog article where I'm covering 3 chapters, just some quotes, because the 2 philosophers I'm allowing into my life because of some divine appointments that I've had. One of them is Carl Jung, and the other is Rudolf Steiner. I found Rudolf Steiner through runestones, Ralph H. Bloom's runestones. Carl Jung, I don't remember how I was made aware of him, but he was writing about the same time, and I have people in my life who have shared a little with me. Evidently, he was mentored by Freud. So I have his book, and I started reading it yesterday because I had to go into downtown Austin And so I had some time on my hands, so I read some more of his book and found the second book that I want to get of his, of my own choosing. Rudolf Steiner, I read, I believe, on the web, and found already bought the second book of his that I'm going to do. This is the first book, Philosophy of Freedom, and it's the first book I've committed to in a 50-year Christian existence, that I'm going to see it through. And I'm at least not crying today. I cannot tell you how hard this is after giving your whole life to a methodology that betrays the King of Kings himself. 100% of the time. I've had no encouragement to be sitting in this car. I've had zero encouragement to have as many blogs as I have, to have the tarot books that I do. I have nothing but myself here. And Rudolf Steiner talks about this in the first 3 chapters that I am now doing a blog article on. So there will be 2 videos, because I'm going to read a portion of the 3rd chapter when I get home. And so I will load up 2 videos, and this is probably how it's going to go, because I'm going to tell you my personal experience. I'm going to bring it down to earth. For someone who was what he talks about in the first of the Philosophy of Freedom, which is dependence. And he discusses things like monotheism or monoism and dualism, and individuality, and the cult that it is. And this is like 1916, 1914, 1916. So I don't know if you can imagine, but being who I am and what I've been through, I already know what I imagine is the truth. The onslaught of the internet and social media, email, all of that only caused the individuality to hunker down more. So our society is something completely opposite of what I was required. I didn't have free will. I've never had free will. And indeed, even at the time when I was establishing the ministry and coming out of Christianity, but I was just in the beginning stages. You know, one of my kids literally hated on me because I point blank admitted I gave up free will. You should never give up free will. Well, she didn't have free will either. And she's having to go through the painful process of realizing that. And that is what Rudolf Steiner is going to tell you. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. And much more for the women in our society than the men. And Rudolf Steiner was living in a time where it was automatic that it's a male-dominant society, because men worked, women stayed home. And that's still, to a degree, the truth. And I just talked myself back into worth, because if y'all don't have us, this world's shit. Because whether you like it or not, the women are still going to be the ones that produce the aura of beauty in your midst. And hating on women isn't going to get us true free will. In small A America, in the state of Texas, it's not going to do it. Because a man, a philosopher, writing at the early part of the 1900s, is telling you a reality that we have been living baby boomer on. You were popped out, you were already dealing with this. And then I can tell you, those of you who were popped out, and the internet and social media was already there, you're dealing with it that much more, and you're completely clueless. And I have no idea where this society is going to go, because the churches are just shutting down. If you don't do it their way, Catholic or Protestant, public and private school is very much this way. We're all in a very controlled society. And I suggest to myself as well as others that we become positive about it and turn our places into a blooming society. And that includes, if all our society is like me, the only society I have is Tribe Judah elect. That's it. I think some of my children, are going to probably share it with me somehow, but it's nothing like what was required of us back in the day, even when they were children. And right now, because of what happened in my private life and how I am considered to be, I have no hope that there will be any lasting relationships with people that even I grew in my body, but also their compatriots, they're people that they're around, that are their ages. There's a disconnect in our society at this point, at least in Texas, that is, well, as a Generation X, I will tell you, I need to be very, very careful not to become despondent in it, and to breathe purpose into what I'm doing. And I guess that's where my intelligence is coming out, because I do have the blogs and I am reading the books, and this is a new religion, literally. I told somebody who's also into philosophy like I am, and we were discussing some things. I told them I cannot do life without religion. I can't, literally. And so I'm forming a structure around it, and maybe someday I'll figure out how to include people that used to be close to me, or I wanted to be close to me, and I have cried many tears because for whatever reason, I'm not somebody people want to be around, like to just enjoy life with. And it's probably because I talk too much about the things that I'm about, but the thing is they do too, and have always done. So what people were saying about me, they're just looking in the mirror and saying about themselves. What it takes is, for instance, if I had people around me that would show interest in some things I was doing. I began celebrating Michaelmas this year. I'm not celebrating Christmas. I have tried for several years for our family to stop buying presents because we really can't afford it, and it's just not good for our financial picture wholeheartedly going into another year. Any of us that earn money, and I don't, I'm a dependent. And again, Rudolf Steiner in the first of his book talks about me, the dependent, and talks about the necessity of interdependence, and talks about how many people do not know what it is to understand the individual and the world as a holistic picture, even scientists. And he basically prophesied what we're living now, a little over 100 years later. He's very accurate. And so I'm sitting here living what he said. This is what it's going to do. This is what it's doing. And I think the world wars, 9/11, and all of that has disconnected us from our true cores even that much more. And we can take that as a challenge, or we can take that as, I'm just going to give up and just be me and, make sure that I have my bills paid. It's just my life. It's just about my life, or my life and my family's life. That's it. And I'm just not that kind of person. I mean, I went into downtown to do something specific yesterday, and I made several friends, and we had a great time. And it doesn't matter where I go. I gather people, and we have a good time. I've done this over and over again, and I'm tired, and I don't have anyone. I don't have anyone doing that for me or around me, with me, wanting to be with me. I was somebody to avoid. So I think my Uncle Paul was the same way, and he ended up in his own trailer by himself. I kind of hope I don't end up that way, but if I do, I do. I will, the blogs will tell you what my religion is, and my religion actually embraces you. It's everybody else's quote unquote religion that's not embracing me, and that's part of the reason I seemed mentally unstable, is because people were hiding things from me for years. I'm a very intense spiritual aura, and people don't appreciate that. But if you really get to know me, all I want is unity and peace. That's all I want, and I want you involved because you're necessary. I am everything that Rudolf Steiner says this society is. I am everything directly opposite of it. I do see us as a whole, and I've got the scars to prove it, literally, and I do think there's other people like me. We just are, literally, we've been beat up so much at this point in history that, and we don't meet in the buildings. We can't follow the rules, but yet we're peacemakers, and we follow the law of the land, and we pay our bills, and we help the person who has the job, which my partner has the job. We help each other keep the house and everything. We've got some pain in our lives. I'm not getting, and I've been blamed for stuff, but no, there's a lot of spiritual things that happen around me. I'm very paranormal active, and people just fight you, and it's for the reasons, I think, basically in middle class America, it's for the reasons of individuality as a cult. And I do wonder if religion, just the strictness of religious lives and how much work it takes, I do wonder if that's what has done it to us in this country. And right now, I can tell you point blank that that's the Republican Party, and that's the conservative movements, particularly in the red states, the Bible Belt, all of that. And the sad thing, I'll tell you what the sad thing is. Those are all very good movements, and it did foster a more holistic view of the world, and in the name of Jesus, the King of Kings. But the thing is if you are homosexual, or if you're trans, or if you're, there's all kinds of belief systems that you maybe just are. It's not even a belief system, it's who you are. If you're those things, you're not accepted in their society. They shun and stuff. So Rudolf Steiner was writing to the rest of the world, not the Christian world, and he talks about God. He has a very holistic view of God. What he doesn't have a holistic view of, and I guess I'm sitting here realizing, I guess the reason Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncovered No More has a blog is because, and I could be so furious about this that it just would derail me, and I'm just not going to go there. I'm just going to accept the calling on my life, because it's not just God the Father, it's God the Mother, and Christianity has done that. Misogyny has destroyed us. Misogyny has destroyed the Western world and is continuing to do that. The slaves that came into this country, which was the black people and women, have fought long and hard against misogyny and sexism and all of that. And we've got the scars of our lives, and I think we're just so fucking tired that we're building a society outside of all these societies. That's all I know right now, and that's what I'm doing, is I'm establishing, but it is never wise. This is the sorceress talking. It is never wise to throw everything of your past good life out. You will cease to exist, is what I know. how I know that is because of the life I live. I'm choosing not to cease to exist. And since I'm on medication today, because I had to take some, I had to do a nasal spray that my doctor, my family doctor, got for me because I collect fluid collects behind my ear, but it doesn't like go into infection. I can just hear it in there, like as if I've been swimming. And so I have to. The only way to make that drain is to use the nose spray 2 or 3 days. But then I'll start breaking out into internal hives, which probably will happen by the weekend. I'll just have to treat myself because I had to do it because the fluid was building up. And I'm also on some Motrin because of my chronic pain issues. So I had to take a nap this afternoon early afternoon because I'm just tired on medication, but at least I don't feel the pain as much. And I will tend towards, if you're tired feeling, you're going to tend towards the negative aspect of what you're studying. If you're me, studying philosophy to rebuild myself after being in such a huge Christian life. And again, I told people I'm giving up my free will. What I was actually saying is that, about 10 years from now, I'm going to be reading Rudolf Steiner, and I'm going to tell you now, you don't have free will, and neither do I. That's what I was actually telling my daughter, who argued with me, and she doesn't have a good relationship with me, because she didn't know that I was a seer and that I could actually do that. See, I do have one person in my life finally that's saying, because I'm explaining, okay, you need to understand, I knew you were going to say that last night. I knew you were going to make that decision last night. That doesn't surprise me, finally was said to me. And I said, okay, would you please keep saying that? Because people just get mad at me for my abilities that aren't even abilities. It's just the way I am. And all of my family is that way. And they don't know how to be kind about it together. And so if you leave, if you've been raised in Christianity, y'all, in Catholicism, and you leave it right now in 2023, I will tell you, you're going to have to enter the cult of individuality of Rudolf Steiner. And he's not even positive about that, but that is more positive than staying in the cyclical control of religion. And we will be free. We are freer. I have the freedom to sit in this parking lot before I go in and do some grocery shopping and make this video. Our finances can afford one paid YouTube that I do this on. The other two I've kind of dropped, and I'm just going with what I pay for, so that I can keep doing this, which is rewriting my religion. And I needed all of the experiences, in this case, of my past to be here. I needed that. And that's a place of dignity. And you can have that place of dignity as much as I can have that place of dignity, where many of you are going to have to change, that are millennials and Gen Z, is you're going to have to put down your gaming, and you're going to have to put down even some of your schooling. There are many people in this country who are getting educations and then they don't do it. They don't even use it for employment. That education is costing a tremendous amount of money. I'm somebody who says universal education, and you actually can get that online. I'm taking Algebra 1 from a course that we purchased some time ago for a schooling situation, and I can take it now. I have everything I need. I can tell you that it's a hard decision to make at 57 to do that, but I need to work my brain, and I don't need to fall into the traps of this society of individuality, the cult. as an empath, though, I will equally tell you, I cannot hope for a group of people that are like-minded, because Christianity, that's all they do. We're like-minded. And that term like-minded makes me ill, but at the same time, if that's what you had, you definitely miss it. You feel lost most of the time by my stage of the game, and you do feel like your life is a waste because you walked off of your collective. But it's the only way with where religion is in this country for a lot of us, the little people, because the big people that are running those businesses aren't going to walk off. They're just going to keep putting pressure on the clergy is going to continue to put pressure on the common man and woman and children in their societies. What I'm writing in the article, I already wrote one article off of one statement in the first 3 chapters of Rudolf Steiner's book. And I will be doing the same thing with Carl Jung's writings. I will write some things, I will write it down to get it into my mentality so that I don't slip into what people would call a depression. Despondency I can slip into at this point because of what I've lost, and I've lost a lot as it concerns relationships. But depression, I do the right thing each day to stay out of depression, whether it's stay in my yard or I went to a coffee shop today to get these articles out of my system because it's painful seeing what I am seeing as a seer, because I knew it all along. I knew it all along. I can tell you that I can see the validity of watching TV shows together to reform a society and just enjoy, cooking a little something and watching TV together is a good thing. My parents did that at the end of their lives, and I see some young people doing that, just enjoying shows together and having some food together and stuff. That's beginning to form societies again. We don't know how to form societies anymore, of just congeniality and supporting one another in this new life. My new life, I write poetry, I read poetry, I write my own books from other books. I walk away from the pain of what happened to me as I published commentary. I enjoy cooking. I'm learning to watch TV more holistically, because some people in my life, that's how they relate to people, is through watching TV. So I'm learning that because I value the relationships, and I'm tired of being in pain from all of what happened. So I'm willing to adapt. I've got people around me not willing to adapt. I feel rejected. I'm going to have to choose to not feel rejected, because I'm correct is the problem. It's just how I said it wasn't as full as 15, 20, 30 years later, after having lived that 15, 20, or 30 years. And that's a big duh. Everybody, particularly if you're someone who has the disciplines of journaling, writing, reading, and not just fiction. I'm gonna stick y'all with that. You need to get your mind out of the fiction all the time. Okay? It's got to be some poetry in there. I wouldn't suggest history necessarily, but I'm reading a book written by an ambassador whose wife got betrayed by the federal government, because she was an FBI agent or something too. And that's real. And that happened in my lifetime, like in the 90s or early 2000s. Do I want to be doing these things? No. To be clear, I don't know what I want to be doing. I love doing my book work. I love reading poetry, listening to good music, being with my cats, being with people. And that's where the greatest pain is in my life, is that people don't want to be with me, do not have time for me. And that pain's going to be there for a while. But at least I can say it without crying. So I hope something that I share alongside what I will actually read of Rudolf Steiner's books helps someone someday, somewhere. Because we're the ones that are going to have to grow this society. We do need each other. The individuality cult is killing us as a society. Will it cause the whole structure to fall apart? No. No. But nonetheless, we need a fabric of people power. I know we need that in Austin, Texas. And it cannot be sourced from religion or capitalism. We need community. This is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncover No More.